Welcome back to Learning Improvement at UNC Chapel Hill. In Episode 4, we wrote a defensible improvement plan and stopped short of claiming results. Now follow-up evidence is available. This episode asks what that evidence supports and what it does not. Begin by separating two evidence streams. Implementation evidence shows whether the plan change occurred and reached the intended students. Learning evidence shows what students demonstrated on the targeted outcome afterward. In our continuing synthesis case, implementation evidence might show that methods course instructors used annotated examples, scaffolded synthesis exercises, and criterion-based feedback in the intended sections. That documents delivery and reach. It does not establish that students learned more. Learning evidence would come from later student work assessed on the synthesis criterion. Before interpreting a difference, ask whether the follow-up work is sufficiently comparable to the earlier work. Comparable does not mean identical. Examine the learning outcome and standard, the task and its demand, the students and curricular point represented, and the scoring process. Cohort composition, missing work, or a revised assignment may also matter. A higher score is not persuasive if the later task was easier, the sample excluded weaker work, or the scoring standard changed. Document important differences and narrow the conclusion accordingly. Precision in the numbers does not compensate for weak comparability. Interpret implementation and learning evidence together. If implementation was adequate and sufficiently comparable, evidence shows stronger targeted performance. A qualified improvement claim is defensible. Performance improved after the change. This does not prove that the response caused the result. If implementation was adequate, but the targeted pattern did not improve clearly, reconsider the working explanation, the response, or the evidence used. If implementation was weak or unknown, the response remains inadequately tested. Weak learning results do not show that an intervention students barely received was ineffective. Stronger results also cannot be credited confidently to a response delivered inconsistently. Results may be mixed across criteria, sections, or student groups. Do not average away variation that changes the decision. State what remains uncertain. The screen is a workshop reasoning aid, not a validated scoring rubric. Match each claim to the evidence it requires. The planned activities reach the intended students is an implementation claim. Follow-up work showed stronger performance on the targeted criterion than sufficiently comparable earlier work is a learning improvement claim. The evidence supports retaining the response provisionally is a decision claim. The response caused the improvement is a causal claim. It requires a design capable of addressing credible alternative explanations. Routine program assessment often supports a qualified learning improvement claim, not a causal one. Follow-up evidence should change the next decision. Retain provisionally when implementation was adequate and comparable learning evidence improved. Refine when results were mixed or uneven. Repair implementation when students did not receive the response as intended. Replace or pause when adequate implementation was followed by no clear improvement, or when the response was infeasible or created serious trade-offs. Test further when comparability or interpretation remains too uncertain. Now apply this to one improvement effort. Complete 5 sentences. The implementation evidence shows. The follow-up learning evidence shows. The earlier and later evidence are comparable because the main limitation is. Therefore, faculty will pause the video here if you want time to draft. Then resume when you are ready. End with the strongest conclusion those 5 answers justify, no stronger. If evidence is incomplete or ambiguous, say so. An honest decision to refine, reassess, or gather better evidence is still learning improvement work. Follow-up evidence becomes useful when implementation, learning, comparability, limitations, and the next decision are visible. Across different cohorts, the defensible conclusion concerns performance across cycles, not individual student growth. This completes the core 5-part sequence. Diagnose a learning need, design a response, examine follow-up evidence, and make the next decision explicit. Sources and workshop resources appear on screen and in the video description. Thank you for watching.